Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Reactive Horsemanship. I'm Luke Brown. I'm super excited to be with you here today. Today is Training Tip Tuesday, and I have an exciting horse I'm riding today. Of course, every horse I ride, I love. I love doing what I do, and I love helping horses overcome some of the issues that they've developed and helping owners as well. And today I'm riding a quarter horse, and this is Chooch. So this is Chooch. He's a quarter horse. He's, I think, about 10 years old. And he came to me with a few problems that were pretty serious, to the point where the owners are considering selling him and considering moving on from him because he's just been so challenging. Now, they have been through a number of trainers, countless trainers. They've been through a number of different other professional horse people, like massage therapists, chiropractors, what's the wave therapy, like the whatever that is, that wave therapy, and many other different treatment assessments and attempts to work through some of Chooch's issues. Now, one of the biggest issues he had was when you went to touch his face, towards usually even his cheek. If you went to touch his cheek or his forehead, he would just freak out, just really wig out and back up and throw his head in the air. And he was almost impossible to touch his head. And so for Training Tip Tuesday, I want to just tell you a little bit about that one issue. Now, he's had some other issues. He reacted a few times when I'm on the ground doing some groundwork. He reacted twice and blew up and started bucking and kicking. And that's just the reaction that he had. Every horse has a different reaction to different stimulus. And when they get overstimulated, they have a certain reaction. And his weakness, and they demonstrate their weakness. And his weakness is when he overreacts, he bucks and kicks. And so I've helped him through that and immensely. I'd say he's 95 to 98% over that. And then also his head not being able to be touched. Well, today is just the second day of the second week of his training. Now, he's going to be with me a full month, so we can make sure and really solidify his training and get to the point where his owners can ride him and feel safe with him. But one of the things that I do with a oversensitive area of a horse's body is what I call approach and retreat. Now, there's other trainers that have called it this. Clinton Anderson calls it approach and retreat, and it's a fabulous way to describe it. When you approach, Warwick Schiller is another one I wanted to mention about approach and retreat, and I'm sure a number of other trainers have said it as well. But when you approach a horse and they start to get a little uptight about whatever you're doing, whatever object you have, whatever sound you're making, whatever position you're in, they start to get a little uptight, a little nervous about that. Then you back away. You acknowledge the fact that they're getting nervous and you back away. You take that away. And over time, they start to trust that when they start to get nervous, you're going to take that away. And it's a completely different way of looking at it that I used to think that was hogwash and that there was no way that would be an effective treatment. Now, this isn't it's not the best treatment for every horse, but there's some horses that need this kind of treatment, and that is the approach and retreat. So with him and his head, I would move my hand towards his head, and really I come from his neck and get close to his cheekbone. And if he started getting a little nervous, I'd retreat and move my hand back down his neck and just rub his neck. And then I'd again attempt it again and go up his neck towards his cheekbone. And pretty soon he allowed me to get up to his cheekbone and start to rub on his cheekbone, or at least set my hand on his cheekbone. And then when he started getting a little nervous, I take it away, and I keep doing that. Now, once he gets kind of used to that and starts trusting me, there's also a technique of waiting until he relaxes. And so I might put my hand on his cheekbone, and after a while, he might start moving his head and raising it up. But then when he stopped raising it or started to lower his head, then I'd take it away. So once I gain that trust, then I start to work on the next step, and that is waiting until he relaxes to take it away. So initial step is take it away when he starts to get uptight and unrelaxed, and then the second step is to leave it there until he starts to relax. And I did this for it took me about 3.5 days. Well, on the fourth day, he was about 90 to 95% better with my touching his head, all over his head, up on his ears, on his muzzle, up between his eyes, on his forehead, and on his cheekbones, everywhere, underneath his chin. He was completely okay with me doing that, with my putting my hands there and rubbing, not just holding my hands there, but actually rubbing on him and scratching on him a little bit. He was fine with that and relaxed. And what we're finding out is that the main reason he was having such a hard time with somebody touching his head is because he didn't trust that something bad wasn't going to happen, or he didn't trust, that something bad wasn't going to happen. So he was afraid that if my hand was up around his head, something bad was going to happen. And now that I learned his history, I know there's been a few times, I know for sure that where humans have interacted with him in a way where they get their hands around his face and something bad happens. And so he developed this incredible nervousness and reactivity to somebody's hands, a human's hands around his face. So now today is my second day of the second week, and I literally he hasn't raised his head one time. He's relaxed. Even with I went up to a canal grate, and I was sitting on that, and I brought him in towards me to get him used to that canal grate. So I'm off of him. I'm sitting on the canal grate. I led him up to me, and then I'm rubbing him on his face. So with all that stimulus of that water and the water spraying and the sound of the water, and he's kind of nervous about it, he didn't care at all that my hand was up around his head. So that's something that you guys can work on. If a horse has a real extreme sensitivity and reactivity to something, to being touched somewhere, then let me help you through that. Let me coach you through that. Let me work with your horse and get them through that, and you're gonna find that in most cases you can correct this. Now, the last thing I wanted to mention is that this couple who owned this horse, they spent an incredible amount of money, a lot of money, trying to fix this horse in every way but the actual way that worked the best, and that is behavioral training. I call myself a behavioral horse specialist. I tell people all the time, I believe that 95% of problems that a horse has can be fixed with behavioral training. And most people will, because they're not as knowledgeable as somebody like me about behavioral training, they will try to fix it using professionals in every other way imaginable. They might, even to the point of acupuncture and massage and chiropractic and medication, vets trying to help them out to help a horse get through some kind of issue. Now, sometimes there are hormonal issues. Sometimes there are underlying functional structural issues in a horse, like an alignment issue, a pelvic issue. And those things, yes, they exist, but I would argue that 95% of the time you can fix most horse behavior by just working on behavioral changes. And for him, it took him about a week. This is the beginning, pretty much the beginning of the second week, and he's doing almost perfectly. And I would argue he's not going to have that issue in the future, especially when I continue to work with him and have positive experiences with him over the next 3 weeks or 2.5 weeks. By the end of his training, he is going to be incredibly comfortable with my hands and my body up around his face, and his owners as well. And he's going to be a great horse, and a horse that they're probably, unless they sell him for other reasons, they're not going to have to get rid of him because of that reason. If they tried to fix it a number of other ways. Now, the owner told me I could have had you train my horse for 6 months for the amount of money that I've spent up to this point trying to address these issues with this horse, with supposed trainers and other professionals. And some people, every trainer's at different levels. And if you have a horse that just has some struggles and challenges that are difficult to be corrected, bring them to me, and we'll work on them and figure out how to fix that issue. I love doing it, love helping you out, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and until next time, stay safe in the saddle.